I think one thing about school consolidation in Elmore is that a lot of new families have moved into town. And I think that that's across Vermont where towns have school choice. And I think it's particularly attractive to people that might move into the state, seeking something unique, seeking something different than maybe where they lived previously. And I think it's a huge loss for Elmore when we had a revote and lost school choice through that process, because we lost something that's unique to Elmore and unique to Vermont in many ways. And I think that that's the type of families. I mean, I'm not exactly that demographic, but a lot of our neighbors are in that demographic, and I feel that it's a long-term blow for a short-term financial gain, maybe a financial gain.
Right, and as Anne-Marie was just talking about, those numbers still are not clear, so whether or not that plays out in the long run to actually save money is still remains to be seen. So it's a big loss. I think it's a big loss for communities, for students, and property values, which is something that was glossed over in our town and dismissed. But then in other towns, when we talked about the loss of school choice, with friends who live in school choice towns, they were saying, oh wow, that's going to really hit your property value. And I thought that was an interesting response.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the benefit, we lived in southern Vermont in another town with school choice, and there's a fairly significant towns that do have school choice. And my wife loves real estate and looks at real estate all the time. And I would say that it's almost without a doubt that towns across the state that have school choice have higher property values than neighboring towns that don't have that choice.
Right.
And I think in the discussion in our merger, town officials in Elmore actually discounted that, saying that that's not real, whereas professors at UVM said it was real. And I think, again, that's a lost opportunity. People voted, I think, out of fear, out of a short-term property tax increase. That was their focus. And I think, my opinion, 1 or 2 years of reduced taxes, we'll be right back up where we were, because nothing has changed. There is no savings. The tough choices haven't been made. And I don't think anyone in Elmore was really, their goal was not to change the governance in the town. Nobody thought that school choice was not the right choice for Elmore. No one felt that the one-room schoolhouse was, a bad thing for Elmore. They felt that if they didn't make the change, they would not be afford to live here anymore.
That's the thing.
And like Chris said, the jury's out on that.
Right.
But if you're a betting person and you follow state government, what are the chances the taxes are going to stay down?
Right. It's not been historically. It hasn't happened in history. So.
There's not a great track record.
No, not a great track record. And I think the way that the conversation evolved was challenging in our town. And I'm not sure what's happening in other towns, but in our town, there was no conversation around alternatives. There was no fair discussion about what budgets might look like elsewise to keep our systems intact. And no conversation about how we could make that happen in the context of the legislation, other than the option that was presented to us. As a group that supports school choice, to create alternatives to mergers that force you to lose that option, it's a really valuable option for your children. It is meaningful for your real estate value. It can't be replaced once you've lost it, and I think that there are alternatives to mergers that take away school choice.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage any town. Time worked against Elmore. The town felt it had to rush to meet a deadline, the new year. 2016. I think if people are, looking, again, this is a really long-term decision, and I would encourage any town to carefully look at their options. If the options aren't being offered by their supervisory union, demand them. If the state is not assisting them in exploring those options, demand it. I think that, again, one of the nicest things about Vermont historically has been town meeting, local control. And people really do cherish that in many ways, but for some reason when it comes to education, they're giving up. And Elmore's decision is basically a decision that is forever. And I would encourage other towns to not do that. Be careful, be prudent, and find out what's best for you, because the state is not really interested in what's best for you. There's a bigger agenda there, and it might not fit your town's agenda. I think one of the things that's most upsetting to me is that through our experience at Elmore and what we went through, I mean, since that's happened and since the merger debate and the Act 46 debate has kind of reached a state level, and in this session of the legislature, it was definitely, there was a lot of discussion. We see the state level politicians and people working in agency of education, that the company line seems to be, well, the mergers, what's happened so far, it's all based on local decision making.
Which is not the case.
Yeah, which I would agree is not the case. There is an agenda presently with the present makeup of the people in the legislature and the agencies, and it seems like I wouldn't say that they're deceiving the public, but they're manipulating the public. And I feel like our information meetings in Elmore were propaganda. And I would expect more from people that are public servants. I think they owe us the truth as they see it. And I think they gave us the truth as they would like it. And I think there's a big difference there.
I want to just also say that part of that, I think part of what you're saying was just that, again, there were no options. That, there was a whole group of people clearly that were looking for options. The first vote was, against the merger. So evidently there was a strong feeling against the merger. And instead of really saying, okay, this is an opportunity in an informational meeting for us to talk about the options and what else we might do as a community, the same agenda was promoted more strongly. And that's really not an informational meeting. And that doesn't really serve the people. That's not community control. And in fact, people from the state were brought in to tell us why that particular agenda was correct. So that's the feeling of discouragement that happened after our revote.
And actually, looking back, having the benefit of looking back and looking at the arc of all the meetings, I would say that our town board of ed and the supervisory union, when they initially were promoting the merger, the articles had been written. They didn't even understand the articles themselves, which tells me they didn't write it. And I think, to their credit, over 4 months, they learned them and they got better at them. But I would suggest that that these articles, the creation of the articles are actually being done at a higher level. And again, it's not necessarily, it's probably informed by local issues, but it's really a top-down process. And I would just say to any town, try to reverse that. Make these decisions about you. Because again, it's not gonna, once you make, if you enter consolidation or, it's gonna be very hard to undo it.
Okay, now we're really done.